Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Onepeg. Hi, hello. This video is about patch notes, but before we get into that, I do want to say something about this whole like Demo Wilson thing. A whole lot of people have been blowing me up saying that I need to make a video regarding the newest video apparently by Wilson's game that has something to do with whether or not Demo is cheating. Him talking about aim snapping and auto aim and all these other things. Let me first say that I am no expert when it comes to cheating, cheat dev, anti-cheat, what's a cheat, how people cheat, any of that. I have experience in playing a lot of video games and seeing things that look rather suspect. I made a video based on something that Wilson had originally presented and then retracted that video because the presentation that Wilson made was piss poor. Since then, it seems that Wilson is doing a better job. However, given the history of what Wilson has been alleging and whether or not Demo is cheating, again, with me not being an expert, I feel as though me chiming in at this point in time only serves to muddy the waters, and given that I'm not the person that ends up ultimately passing judgment, it makes more sense to me to stay out of it and let Iron Mace, Demo, and Wilson do their thing and hash it out. I stand by the original statement that I made when it came to the video saying that I did not believe that Demo was cheating, given the fact that Wilson did a very poor job presenting the evidence that he did. That's it. From there, it looks as though Wilson has done a better job in the video that he's presenting now, and I will say that there are things that look weird. Given that, though, I am not the authority, and I'm going to let Iron Mace do their job, and if Demo doesn't get banned by Iron Mace, there's not really a whole lot we can say. They're the authority, not me. Anyway, on to the patch notes. Patch notes are coming out now, saying that they were starting at 8:30 a.m. The patch is going to be going for 3 hours. They said they fixed an issue where defense didn't work if you were still blocking after using Shield Slam. Rogue could be more visible when hiding in the dark. The description of Bard's playing time was incorrectly displayed. The Salet's movement speed was different depending on its rarity. The connection status of dead party members was not confirmed. Restoring friend items would sometimes not work properly, and fixed an issue where matching could not occur even after a very long time had passed given the new matchmaking system. From there, we have balance changes to Wizard, Cleric, Bard, Warlock, and a lot of stuff for Druid. Wizard's quick chant casting speed bonus changed from 20 to 15%. We knew, or at least should have known at this point, that Wizard nerfs were coming. Spell overload now reduces knowledge by 40% instead of memory capacity. Hey, what's up, everybody? Editor Onepeg here. So there's a few other pieces with this. So Sage increases your knowledge by 10%. We don't know if that increases the knowledge by 10% post gear or post overload and then gear. We don't know. And obviously those things would modify it based on like how much knowledge of a pool you got to work with. Because if overload nerfs the knowledge that you have with your gear by 40% and then you get Sage on top of it, that's nowhere near as good as 10% of your base gear and then overload coming off. So we don't know. Secondarily, no matter what, this ends up being like a pretty hard-handed nerf to how overload would work and cast speed. Even with Sage, even with the quick chant perks both running at the same time, it's still going to hurt. So we don't know if overload's really worth using. It seems like no. It sounds like 10 spell is going to kind of be the thing that people go with now. Wizards are going to be a little bit more choked off than they used to be. Quite a bit more choked off than they used to be. And you won't see people slinging like a bajillion fireballs anymore. And needless to say, Wizards are not nearly going to be as threatening as they were prior to today. It's a pretty hard nerf to Wizard. We'll see how it ends up shaking out the dynamics, but it sounds like 10 spell is going to be the way to go from here on out. This is going to get edited, but I accidentally called this Lesser Hell. Cleric's Lesser Heal spell count changed from 3 to 4, so you get 1 more light heal. Holy Strike blind duration changed from 2 to 4 seconds. Now, I don't know why they're buffing Cleric and Holy Strike, but here we are. Bard's Rousing Rhythm duration changed from 3069 to 306120. So Rousing Rhythms was something that had to be refreshed because it had half the duration of all the other Bard songs. It's the song that gives everybody +2 stats. This being made to 120-second base time means that you don't have to refresh it like twice as often as the rest of the songs. So this is actually a good quality of life change. You could call it a buff if you want to, but it's really just bringing it in line with all of the other base song durations that people typically run. Warlock's Curse of Pain dot damage changed from 10 to 13. So this is another interesting change. Warlock kind of got screwed on their self-healing. It's nowhere near as strong to run TM builds as what it had once been. Kind of made them much more in line balance-wise with where they probably needed to be, with all of the meta being what it is. It's still fine to run. Warlocks are still highly mobile classes if you run enough agility. They still have the strong ability to kite, but their damage output for Curse of Pain has not been that great. Hey, so Editor Onepeg here again. So math-wise, on paper, the 3 damage doesn't seem like it matters all that much, but when you consider the damage scaling and how it works, what this means is in base kit, you have the ability to do 2 damage per tick with Warlocks and Curse of Pain from 1 damage per tick. That's basically the difference. It also means that it's a lot easier to work into like a 3 damage per tick if you do like a purple spellbook and then 1 additional magical damage on all of the pieces of gear that you can get it on and run like a Phoenix Choker. That's more or less the difference. That's the big change. Druid Bear Form movement speed bonus penalty changed from 30 to 20, so bears move faster. Bear Form primary attack attribute bonus ratio changed from 100 to 125%, so it's making the base form bear attack, the swipe, hit a little bit harder, which almost still no one will use because the right click is just so much stronger. Druid's Bear Panther Form health penalty changed from 30 to 20%. Finally, some Panther Form love. Give the Panther a little bit more staying power. They're not going to be as squishy. Panther Form primary attack changed from 100 to 110%, and primary attack attribute bonus ratio changed from 125 to 135. So primary attack, left click going to 110. I think this is the right click that's going to 135, both of which are very, very good. I think the Panther Form needed a little bit of love. They still don't have any friggin' armor pens, so if you're running across like a PDR fighter or a barbarian or a cleric in PDR gear, you're not really doing much. You're still not going to kill them. Everybody else, a little bit squishier, is probably going to be hurt a bit. I think this makes it so that you can actually like stand toe-to-toe on a bard, and it's going to be like who hits who more times than the other one that ends up getting the win. But this is a good change. Panther needed a little bit of love. I know that people will say that Druids are overpowered. They're not. They needed something. They really did. Druid's Nature Touch attribute bonus ratio changed from 0% to 50%, and spell count changed from 5 to 4. So now they're getting plus healing benefit to Nature's Touch, which is kind of huge because Nature's Touch really wasn't doing anything. Barkskin armor, additional armor rating changed from 20 to 25, and duration changed from 8 to 10 seconds. So kind of meh. Most people aren't running Barkskin even with this change. Restore attribute bonus ratio changed from 0 to 50%. So this is also huge for plus healing. And Tree of Life duration changed from 8 to 10 seconds. I don't think anybody's still going to bother running Tree of Life. But the Restore and Nature's Touch attribute bonus ratio is being changed to 50% of plus healing values. Means that a caster like support druid that's doing primarily healing actually has something to work with here. And I think that this is a good change because you could get away from having to stack hots and just make it so that like a primary heal like Restore is enough. Now, when entering a dungeon, you cannot enter with equipment items in your inventory. So what a lot of people had been doing when they were running a high roller, for instance, when they were doing that, they would stuff their inventory full of like junk, but high quality items. So like a halberd, for instance, would be a lot of gear score, like a purple or a legendary one, but they don't cost all that much money. They're like 90 or 100 gold for a cheap garbage one, but they still have the same gear score as like a really, really good, more desirable two-handed weapon, like a good longsword. In this case, what it was doing is it was forcing people above the 225 threshold for gear score requirements, so that way they could get into the dungeon, and they would just throw the thing on the ground and go about like their normal run. So that way they weren't risking hardly anything. They just had like, and there's no more fee, so they weren't really risking anything other than like AP value, so that way they could go on their farming run and it didn't matter. There was no risk. That way they could then also like rat other players that died and like absorb their stuff and bail, and they weren't really risking anything. Now what they're essentially saying is in order for you to enter the dungeon, you have to be wearing stuff that would equal the 225. You can't just be stuffing items into your like inventory space. And honestly, with the goblin merchant being the insurance return for you buddies and all that, it really shouldn't matter at this point. High roller games must now use random matchmaking if the number of players entering the dungeon differs from the dungeon requirements. So now, with the game being where it is now, you had that checkbox that would allow you to autofill your party or not. For a time, once that got implemented, people could go into HR and opt to not have the party filled, which meant that you could go into larger games as a solo and do the rat thing again. Now what they're saying is in order to play high roller, if you want to play it solo as a solo player on duos or trios, you have to check the box and autofill your party. Otherwise, you will not be able to participate. They say in the developer comments, the option to not fill empty slots will still be available for normal dungeon adventures. We've also added a new inventory restriction when entering the dungeons that we saw. Adventurers will now only be able to fill their inventory bag space with utility and consumable items when starting a match. Weapons, armors, accessories, and instruments placed in the inventory bag are not allowed when entering dungeons. We hope to prevent players from trying to exploit the gear score requirements for high roller adventures and also prevent adventurers accidentally bringing in their quest rewards. Thank you and see you in the dungeons. So there you have it. Probably a whole lot of people on the wizard side not happy about the nerf. Maybe a couple, 2-3 people on the druid side pretty happy about the buffs. And warlocks rejoice. Other people are going to be pissed off the warlocks got buffed at all, and other people are going to say the druids are overpowered. Of course, that's dark and darker. That's where we're at. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for coming and checking out the video. Appreciate you all. If you'd be so kind as to sub the channel here, that would be amazing. I would really appreciate it. As always, you can come and check me out over at twitch.tv/Onepeg, where I stream every day. Although apparently today we're running a little bit late. I'm not live right now, and I should be, where I typically start around like 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I suppose I will see you in the next one. Thank you for lending me your eyeballs, everybody. We'll see you soon. Peace.